Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel, and this is your tip of the week. A lot of you tell me you don't like binding, you don't want to deal with it because you don't understand how to go around corners with the binding. Well, I'm not going to cover that so much as I'm going to cover different ways to attach your binding strips together, because a lot of people get confused on it. And when I was first learning how to quilt, dealing with binding, I had the same problem. So I'm going to show you a couple of methods. When you cut a binding strip, you usually leave the fabric folded together with the selvage edges together, and then you cut your strips. Your strips can be cut anywhere from around 2 inches wide to 2.5. Sometimes I've even cut mine wider. So the width just depends on the look you're trying to go for, but most of them are between 2 and 2.5 inches. So here's 2 pieces of fabric, and I've got the pretty side of the fabric facing up. And for this method I'm going to show you, that's real important that you have the pretty sides of the fabric up. So I'm going to lay them together because when I'm cutting the ends on my binding strips, it's quicker to layer some of the fabric. Don't layer a whole bunch where you have 6 or 7, 8 layers of fabric. That's not good. Just 2 to 3, maybe 3 layers. So I'm going to show you a method in which you cut the ends at a diagonal. And on your rulers, sorry, it's down here. On your ruler, here is the 45-degree line. This is the one that you want to use. And how you lay it just depends if you're right or left-handed. I'm left-handed, so I'm putting it this way. So I'm going to put the 45-degree line on this edge of the fabric. And I'm going to move the ruler down towards the end of the strips. And then I'll take a rotary cutter and cut. Now, if you don't have a rotary cutter, then take a pencil and draw a line there, and then cut on it. Now you need to cut the other end. So you need to make sure that your cuts, let me take this away, are all going in the same direction at both ends of your fabric. They either both have to go this way or both this way. Whatever you do, don't cut them out like this or like this. They won't line up. So now I'm going to move this end down, placing the 45-degree line on the edge of the fabric, and then cut this end off. So this is what it would look like at both ends. Again, going in the same direction. So now you're going to bring pretty sides of the fabric together. And one is going straight out away from you, and the other one is going straight out to one side. And for those of you who have a hard time stitching on a straight line, you could put your 1/4 inch line on your ruler there and draw a line. Then pin it together. You really want it to stay together. And one thing I want you to look at real close is right in the 2 corners. So your stitch line begins where the 2 pieces of fabric connect, right in that corner. And the same thing at the other end, must connect right there. Then go ahead and stitch that 1/4 inch seam, making sure you start where the 2 pieces of fabrics intersect together. So then you want to unfold it and press the seam open. Now you'll notice you have these tails here. We call them ears. There's one there and one at the other end. You just want to cut those off. Now when you go to put it on your project, whether it's a pot holder or a big quilt, The process is exactly the same. So you go ahead and you stitch your binding on. Now let's say you started at one end of your binding and you want to go in about 8 inches or so at least, and then begin stitching. Then you stitch it all the way around all of the edges of your quilt, and now you're coming close to putting the ends together. So you want to stop stitching to where you have enough fabric here to where you can bring them together. Now you would have to lay your fabric on top of each other, and then here, let's pretend this strip is really long, the one on top. You would place it close to that and then take a pin and see a mark. Can you see that little mark right there? I put right there. Go over to the other side and do the same thing. Put a mark where this pencil line is. Now you want to open them up to where the front of the fabric is facing up. The pretty side is up. Now you're going to take this one and bring it on top. So you're going to take this outer corner here and bring it over to this corner on the outside down at the point. So the one up here goes over, fold your quilt or your project up and line it up. So this is what it looks like. It looks kind of all wonky there, but it's going to be fine. And it's easier, like I said, if you keep your project folded so you can bring those edges together. Then stitch that 1/4 inch all the way across. And again, those little ears are going to be sticking out. So now you want to go ahead and you can cut the little ears off on the 2 ends and then go ahead and finish stitching it closed. There's one thing I want to mention. When you are putting your binding on your quilt, your binding is actually folded in half. But I definitely wanted you to see this line in there. It's real important. So let's pretend that your binding is folded in half and you have it all stitched on across there. I want to show you what it looks like when it's done. Now this is not folded very well, but you get an idea. Now I'm going to show you a method that I used most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. So here's 2 pieces of fabric. Bring front sides together and then stitch a 1/4 inch seam along here. Then press the seam open. Now remember, keep in mind that when you are doing binding for real, your binding strips are folded in half. But again, I want you to see how everything is coming together, and it's easier for me to leave this open while I'm demonstrating how to put the ends together. So I'll always remember that. So now I'm getting ready to overlap my ends. Now if you have a lot of excessive fabric left over on the one end where you're coming around the corner, okay, so on this piece, the shorter piece, I'm going to draw a 1/4 inch seam line all across there. Then lay it down on top of the other strip and pull this back just a little bit so you can see where the line is, and put a mark on the other strip of fabric that's underneath. And then of course you would do the same thing at the other end. Then place a ruler there and draw a line. Now where I've drawn this line down the fabric that was underneath, that's where I'm going to cut it off. So you'd bring your rotary cutter or cut or on the drawn line and cut that off. So you can use scissors too if you like. Now open them up to where front sides are showing, the pretty sides. Fold your project in half, bring the ends together, and stitch a 1/4 inch seam. Let me explain the differences or the reasons for doing it this way, either one of these ways. This one is less time consuming. There's not a whole lot of guessing that you have to do. This one is a lot more time consuming. So that's why I don't usually do this method. The other reason for doing it, if you're creating a quilt, it's going to be a show quilt, it's going to be in a contest at a quilt show, they're going to look for this method here, the one that goes at the diagonal. You do it this way, they're going to put it in the pile of amateurs, okay? So learn how to do this if your future is to be a quilt show winner, okay? Also, the other reason for doing it this way is that when you fold it in half, remember when you put your binding on a quilt, it's folded in half. The two ends of this, because they're on a diagonal, don't overlap each other, so it's not as bulky. It's smoother when it lays down. This one, the ends are on top of each other, and it's a little bulkier. Those are the only reasons for doing each one the way it is. I like this method. I get dyslexic when I do this method, okay? So unless you're going to be in a quilt show, don't worry about it. Now, if you're interested in other tutorials on binding and quilting, different ways to do quilting stitches, all of that, I will have links below your YouTube screen in the description section. So scroll down, click on Show More, and it will expand open and you'll see it. And also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Make sure you check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.